work for a creative agency who offers 7 core services, and this happens to be one of them. We have one main client, and I would say 90% of our work comes from them. And in fact, we've been on site with this company for 25 years, but we're still independent of them. And, my hope from this presentation is that you gain some insight to something in your project environment based on the experiences and lessons I have learned. And hopefully this will help you move past your current project with innovation or innovative ideas, and maybe, like in our case, tech. And when I say move past the project, I'm really saying, move along with your focus and your current project, and move past what's right in front of you, but to also try to add in that next innovative step and how you can deliver it to your clients. And I realize this is a lot easier to say than it is to do. So I thought this was an appropriate topic and idea to share, because so many times teams like mine and maybe yours who are small, do it all groups of like-minded people, don't really have the time and don't have the resources to look past the project and can only focus on what's in front of us. You have to get the work done, you have to meet the deadlines, and you're simply not afforded that opportunity to do more than that. So before I get into the presentation, I'll just share a quick little background on me and how all of this got started. So I have worked, so I'm the creative director for Stage One Media. I've worked for Stage One for almost 12 years now. When I was hired, I was the media center manager on site at Mead Johnson Nutrition. That's our client. We handled all the internal videos, live events, the typical media center stuff. Over the years, we had a ton of hard work and we put in a lot of effort, and we were able to transform that media center into a full service creative agency. Prior to Stage One, I ran several video and live event companies with my husband. We traveled all over the country shooting content and producing live events. We did everything from corporate how-to videos to national sales meeting. When the economy took a downturn after 9/11 and all of our clients cut advertisings and meetings, it was time for a change. And I went to work for one of our clients who is Stage One Media and Marketing. So 12 years ago, all of the training on site at Mead Johnson was in the classroom. Very few items were digital, let alone online, cloud-based. And I'm sure this is the same for most of the companies that you work for or have worked for. The Media Center entered the e-learning world by default because we understood PowerPoint, and because we were the Media Center and those were the people that knew how to do PowerPoint. By no means were we instructional designers. We were simply the media team. So all of our content, and for the most part, all of our content still is client provided. We don't do, we don't do the full layout of learning methods and the materials they need to learn. So we started off with PowerPoint, and then, I might not be able to do this with 2 hands, with just 2 hands. So we started off with PowerPoint. From there, we added Adobe Presenter. And then from there, it was just a natural progression to Captivate. And finally, we were introduced and went with Lectora, and we've been with eLearning Brothers ever since. So in 2013, I attended the Lectora eLearning conference in San Antonio, Texas. And on the last day, Jane McGonigal was the keynote speaker, and she presented why gaming is the future of e-learning. And this entire concept was just mind-blowing to me. This was different than just creating fun little games within the software. This was more like, hey, let's write an entire online game, make it fun, and let's not tell anyone they're learning. And it's not just writing an entire online game, it's coding, it's, seeing past all of the, getting down into the details, and it was just mind blowing. I couldn't even comprehend most of it. So So that was just mind blowing, like I said. So, but even more than that, it was a pivotal movement for me. Um, this was more like I just learned what looking past the project is. I just learned that looking past the project even existed. And again, I left the conference and knew that I needed to look past what was just in front of me and what can I do different. So you can think that gamification is the natural progression from e-learning, but at this level, at what I saw, it wasn't. It was just like a whole new idea. It was a new concept, and um, it wasn't just relevant to e-learning. For me, it was relevant to everything I did and still do. So that has stuck with me, and I've learned so much from that. So after that conference, I started researching and learning, and then ultimately teaching my team to where eventually we were creating test projects. We stayed up on the tech, all the innovative learning concepts. We continued to do the work in front of us. We pitched our ideas to clients. We pitched AR. We learned and pitched AR. We learned and pitched 360. And then we learned and pitched AR 360. But no matter what, with all our efforts, we simply could not get anybody to commit. Nobody was interested. And this is kind of where I get to that point of pitching tech. We couldn't figure out what we were doing wrong, and we couldn't get anyone on board. And we just didn't get any kind of feedback we needed. We were just simply at a loss, especially because we thought this was a no-brainer buy to our clients. It was fun, it was beneficial, it had solid stats, it had proven results, and it was completely new. It was new ideas for the client. They'd never seen or done anything like it, so why wouldn't they buy in? We knew they had a need for it, but we couldn't get them to understand they had a need for it. And, the learning world was changing. It wasn't just about the software updates. It was our job to bring this technology to the table for them, because simply they didn't have anybody else to do it. So we stood back, we reviewed all of the things that we have done and what we didn't do. We didn't talk over anybody's head. We didn't pitch maybes. We were clear and concise in capabilities, and we showed them those stats and we showed them those proven outcomes, and so nothing. But as I mentioned before, we were a media center. So think producers, editors, graphic artists. And even though we filled a gap with e-learning by default, we were still considered the experts. And at the time, our clients were various departments like HR, EHS, IT security, all of which acted independently of each other, but they were all required to implement learning. And that's the key word. So as you can imagine, hindsight makes you a genius. And this is why we did not draw a lot of interest towards those, retention statistics that we've all come to learn to love with immersive learning. So it wasn't that they weren't aware of the technology or that they weren't familiar with it. It's just that they didn't have a need for it. It wasn't a critical focus for them. They wanted to keep doing what they were doing, and it worked for them. Their requirements were met. And needless to say, our hearts broke, all this time and energy spent, and we kept hitting dead end after dead end. But, our hearts broke, but our spirits didn't. We had no intention to give up. We just didn't know what to do next. And then while we were looking over here at, what do we do next, Scenario VR launched. And it was like, oh yeah, this is a game changer. It was like this big mic drop. And we realized that this was a solution. This was exactly what we needed. Combine all the learning we were doing for EHS and IT and, HR, and mix it or blend it with all the tech we were pitching. And it was like, wow, it was fantastic. So we could always track within an LMS, and we could score and analyze the results, which was so important to all those departments. But now with the launch of Scenario VR, when the Scenario VR launched, we could take all of this and throw it into the 360 world. And ultimately, end goal is we put a ton of goggles on people and let them start learning in a virtual reality world. And because of that, it seemed with the launch, it seemed like everything was finally within reach and everything was coming together. And then we had one of those little aha moments where we realized we needed what we needed to do, but we also realized that we probably had to do it for someone else. Those current clients we had, they were happy with the way things were, and the lessons we were creating fulfilled the required need. Um, it really, for them, it didn't have to be anything more than that. It was important. The learnings were important, lessons were important in training, but it wasn't necessary that it needed to be more. So that was our moment. We realized we have to find out who would benefit from this. How can we keep staying with this technology, and how can we keep working towards it if we don't have an audience? So we had to find out who, and realize that that definitely had to change as well. And then it was a whole new, like can of worms. How do you find who your client is? How do you find who's interested in what you have? So we kind of did a fishing expedition. We had an open house. We created our own learning or our own demo. It was affordable, within reach. And we included it in part of the tour of the media center. So we had all these people come down and try on the goggles and see the tech and experience it, and, see if anybody would bite. So for the demo, we wrote a script. We borrowed a camera. We shot a scenario. We programmed it. We rented VR goggles, and then we showcased it. And like I said, they were amazed. They loved it. But it really didn't progress like we thought it was going to. We didn't really catch as many fish as we thought we were going to, but we did catch one. We caught one, and when he took off the goggles, he looked like I did when I left that Lectora conference, from the keynote speaker. So we had sold our first project right then and there. So before I tell you what we did for him, let me tell you what they used to do. They used to, and I'm sure this is the same with a lot of companies, for the last 15, 20 years or so, they would bring in all of their sales rep into the home office multiple times a year, and they would live role play multiple scenarios with each other to study and to learn, gauge body language, all of that kind of thing. But it was expensive, and it's time consuming, and it takes away from people being out in the field. And I'm sure you guys all know this, but so in 2019, we shot and programmed our first 360 VR training module for the medical sales force training team. We needed to replicate a model sales call, navigate the users when choosing right and wrong answers. And I think we programmed like 6 scenarios. So they would ask a question, they would get a response. If it was wrong, they got kicked back to this, and you know how it works. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. Oh, so we did that, and it was successful, and they loved it. And since this was the first time that anybody had done that within this organization, within the entire company, this was the first VR. They decided to launch it officially at their national sales meeting, where they were introducing this new method. So it was like, it went from this just little podunk, open house in the media center to holy cow, now it is company wide. So yeah, we shot this 360 video in the building after hours, so it was empty. We used available lighting. We got volunteers to be the actors, and my Drake Hicks, my editor, also became the programmer, and he did an amazing job. He embraced it. He was the one that became the expert in the programming of scenario VR, what it could do and couldn't, what are limitations. And so yeah, we finished it, and we sent Drake down to Florida to be the on-site technician, and the reps loved it. It was amazing. And that was the moment that we were all waiting for. That was that whole, that is exactly what we have been wanting to do. This is what we've been working towards for years. And, and it was years from that first, the merge cube that came out to actually being able merge those worlds using scenario VR and still accomplishing the goal of teaching, of helping these people learn. And their retention went through the roof, and we all know how that works too, but it was just so much fun to see, and it was amazing. So, so based on that launch and the success of that launch, we started making noise within the company. The top leaders wanted to see these lessons. They wanted to experience it. They wanted to know what else we could do with it. Can we do this? And that was another wonderful thing that Drake did, was like, okay, well, yeah, I'm glad everybody's thinking like this, but also realize. So yeah, we started making noise with it, and that was exciting, and our budgets got bigger. And then we had a pandemic. So, the pandemic for everyone, I'm sure, required more most immersive cloud-based learnings than ever, but we couldn't go anywhere to shoot. We couldn't shoot with anyone. It was just strictly on lock. Everything was on lockdown. So we kind of like looked past what was in front of us. We wanted to continue with this. We wanted to keep doing better. All along, the company's growing, but we still had to push this forward. So we decided we needed to build a 360 VR set. So I know that there's digital sets out there you can buy. We needed to be very specific with some of the training scenes, because some of the scenes we needed, they're just not available to purchase. So we pitched the idea of a set, we sold it, and then we built a 360 VR set. We built a 20-foot by 20-foot set using 4x8 set flats. We put in a drop ceiling. We added a door, a window. We painted the floor. We constructed mostly staged cabinets, and we propped it out to be part of a hospital environment. So all of the sales reps still needed trained. They just couldn't train in person. They have training calls, which is fantastic, but it's not immersive. It's not it's just not. So that was the goal, was to create more learning, but without people. And so we did. We built this room, made it into a hospital environment. We, put in a lot of hotspots to trigger.
Hey, Holly, can I interrupt you really quickly? Is your slide deck supposed to be advancing?
It is, but it's stuck.
Okay, just making sure.
I never have tech issues. I don't know what's going on today.
That's been kind of the theme of today's conference, is tech issues. So you're in good company.
I actually have wonderful pictures of building the set, and it's fantastic. So, maybe later.
If you send it to me afterwards, I can email it out to everyone with the recording.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, so the set, we finished that, we built it, we shot it, and that was the next step for us. With that client's initial investment in building that set, they owned it. It was theirs. And so the thought behind it was, we keep it modular. We can make that 20-foot by 20-foot room anything we needed it to be. So, and at one point when we do get to go back in person, we can put real people in it again, like we did that first model sales call. So that first investment has led us to using it twice now. So our second go at it was better than the first. We started getting creative with it. It was creative to begin with, but this time we took half of the set, split it in half, and we turned it into a home office. And then the other half is a physician office. So the users would go into their home office, hit triggers, and get documents to read and, experience, and they would practice and learn from it. And then they would just simply physically turn around with their goggles and be in the physician office where they could practice them. But like I said, we didn't have a physician. So, we got a little creative, and we created a 3D animated character. Well, he was kind of animated. It was just his mouth that moved, and it was absolutely hilarious, and everybody loved it because it was so quirky, but it was really, really fun. And they learned, they're still learning from it, and we're still populating that with content. So, I know the doc is silly, but it worked, and he was perfect. So that's kind of where we are today with Scenario VR. Without Scenario VR, I know we would not have been able to give up looking past those projects and past what was in front of us with immersive tech. It's the only software we can assign, track, and see results from. So I know I sped through that. My deck is kind of stuck, so I don't have a lot more to share past that. But I really just want to, I want, through my story, or through our story, I should say, I hope that you find a little insight, and that, if you're able to apply any of this to your current work environment, then that's fantastic. So I also kind of want to thank, I do want to thank eLearning Brothers for letting me have this opportunity and share our story. Okay, so the flats that you see on the right side of the screen is just so when you're looking through the window, when you're in that room, you don't see our studio. So yeah, so that's the as a whole, that's what we ended up building. So this is a milk room in a hospital, basically, and it's important for people to understand what that is, who need to understand what that is. So, and how to operate in one.
That's very cool.
Yeah, so let me go to our next. Oh, here is the home office. So that was another thing. Drake is, he's creative, and when the reps were in that home office, the physician office would darken. So one was, in a live, pretty environment, and the other one was black and white and dark. So when they switched to the physician office to practice what they just learned, the home office would go dark and black and white. And that was our physician in the physician's office. There he is.
And that was the animated character he had the mouth moving on, or?
Yeah.
That's so cool.
So he doesn't move at all. It's just his little mouth. It's hilarious, and it works. So I'm hoping maybe next time we actually, delve into that a little bit more. It's a huge file size, but it's, hopefully we can progress with that.
Awesome.
Yeah. So that is what I had to share. Thank you so much for letting me.
Thanks, Holly.